is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse, hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the editor-in-chief of Unwinnable.com. He's legally unable to host games, so he started playing with Legos, Stu Horvath.
It's true. It's very true.
I mean, it's just kind of the thing that we're dealing with nowadays. We can't hang out together because there's a pandemic going on.
Yeah, the last time I saw you was when we were recording the Gavin Norman interview. That was the last time I saw a human being that wasn't in my house.
So I remember that day specifically because I've been marking things off in my calendar. I want to say that was March the 8th, if not March the 7th, whichever day the Saturday was. And that was the last time I've had any physical or human contact with people outside of the folks I live with.
That was the 7th because the last board game night was March 6th.
Yeah.
I see that note in the board game log often, and it makes me depressed.
Well, folks, we're going to try to keep this episode non-depressing. However, it's going to be a little more of a casual conversation between Stu and I because we have a lot of things we have to catch up about. So I know you're normally here for the heavily edited fare that is the Vintage RPG Podcast, but we're going to play a little fast and loose because, hey, it's the apocalypse.
It's a brave new world.
It really is. So, you know, one of the things that we used to do when we started the show was we would talk about what we're playing. Now, you and I have been lamenting for a long time that we never get to play all these amazing RPGs and games that come across our desks, arrive from eBay, come in over the internet, because, you know, life gets in the way. Well, funny thing, now there is no outside life for most of us, and we are actually required to shelter in place and stay at home. So we've been playing a lot more games, haven't we?
I feel like we're playing less board games and we're playing more role-playing games. I'm sad that we're playing less board games, but the uptick in role-playing games is a good consolation prize.
You know, it's funny because right as it all went down, I had just gotten El Dorado at the suggestion of my friend Josh Look. Shout out to Josh. And I just got the Shining game. And I was like, oh, this is great. I got these brand new games. And so now they're sitting downstairs in my apartment, which I can't get into at this time, collecting dust. However, man, we've been playing a lot of RPGs. What have you been playing, Stu?
So I thought I could run all these weird games that we talk about all the time, but like, let me get into it. Let me ease into the whole online role-playing, DMing. And I would go with Call of Cthulhu, you know, because it's a simple system. It's good for newbies and veterans alike. I think the first thing that we played was the one that you ran, The Edge of Darkness from the starter set, classic Call of Cthulhu scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that was my move because I've always wanted to run Cthulhu and I was going to take full advantage of it. So I did it over Discord with some friends of mine who were really just looking to jump into a game. And it was a good way for them to get into it because you have a system that is made for people to just look at the character sheet and they know roll under this score and let's get weird.
Yep. And then going from there, I put together 2 one-shots that I've been rolling out slowly to small groups. I have this dream of having like a small repertoire of one-shot games and just being able to play them for anybody who wants to sit down, you know, out of the patrons or like, you know, people on the feed, whatever, like 3 hours of my life playing a game, refining it to its perfect state. So one of them was an old school one called The Haunted House. It's a Keith Herbert scenario, and it reads like a one-shot, but I think the Unwinnable gang that I'm running it for is on session 4 now.
What?
So it's
Really?
just like, man, we sank 12 hours into this?
Wow, I mean, we do have the time to kill, but that's kind of excessive.
I'm disappointed with the lack of brevity. It's a fun scenario. It's just not going quite as fast as I thought. And then I ran for the local guys, including you, Scritch Scratch with pre-generated characters, and that was a blast.
Oh, that was an absolute blast. It was one of those Cthulhu adventures that like really got me into Cthulhu. Not that one in particular, but that kind of short style. A lot happens in a very small amount of time. And by the time you hit the go home, you're like, okay, I can see why people sink a year and a half into their campaigns. It's such a perfect, you want to try this game out and fall in love, this is the scenario you run.
Yeah, it's a legit one shot. I think we ripped through it in about maybe 3.5, but I feel like it was closer to 3 hours. And it's just like a great little horror movie. The pre-generated characters are self-contained. You know, there's no expectation of it going on past the events of the story. And basically, everybody's supposed to die, and it's great.
But we didn't, much to my surprise and much to your chagrin.
Yeah, you guys had some seriously lucky rolls at the end there. Like, I should have had you. I should have had Sean. You guys rolled the right things at the right times.
Thing is, all those rolls were honest because they were run through Roll20, where I clicked a little button and it told me what I rolled.
Yeah. And I remember everybody was sort of like, oh, we don't get to roll dice, but like, there's something fun about pushing that button too.
Now, was that your first experience using Roll20?
No, I had run Blades of the Dark, a couple sessions of that for the Unwinnable Gang last year. And it was interesting, but like it was not something that I was super familiar with. So that sort of clouded my view of Roll20. I thought it was cool and interesting, but like I couldn't get a good grasp of like what the Roll20 experience was because I had never played Blades of the Dark before. So it was hard to separate that. Playing Call of Cthulhu with it really crystallized my love for Roll20.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Discord mostly because I've been playing with a lot of new players with not much RPG experience who are coming to the table now because they want to find something to do. They want to do something fun and engaging, so they don't always have a system that is going to be able to handle the bandwidth of a Roll20. Some people are playing on their iPads. I've had people playing on their phones. So I've been using Discord as a way to, we have the talk channel, and then we have a text channel where I can drop in maps, I can drop in monsters, I can, keep track of everyone's initiative and what their roles are if need be. So I've tried Roll20 as well. For me, because I'm actually working on an 8-year-old laptop currently, which is crazy when I think about it, how old this laptop is. And I love you, laptop. Please don't die. It doesn't really work as well for me. Stu has a supercomputer at home, so I'm sure it's like running on all cylinders.
Hot rod!
Hot rod, home built. Stu, what else have you been playing?
Well, we've been playing a lot of board games, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that I wrote a role-playing game.
Yeah, not to bury the lead here, Stu wrote a frickin' role-playing game while on lockdown.
Yeah, very weird. Never would have done this on my own, but my friend Ed Park, he's an editor for the New York Times. He does a column on comics, but he also runs a small printable, quirky newsletter called the New York Ghost. It was around for, 5 or 6 years, about 11 years ago. And then it kind of went into hibernation. But now that he has extra time, like everybody else does, he sort of revived it. And he asked me to write a brief role-playing game for inclusion in an upcoming issue of the New York Ghost. It started out as, I think I crammed the initial set of rules into 400 words.
Wow.
And it was an interesting idea, but they were totally broken and unplayable.
As they usually are.
Yeah. And now my brief role-playing game is, I think, just under 4,000 words. But we've played it a couple times. Both games that I played in were fun, which is like shocking and highly gratifying, but like mostly surprising. Like I was just totally blown away by this idea that like I made a game and we played it and everybody seemed to have a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think we're going to play in the patron lounge on our Discord?
Totally. 100% going to do that, as soon as I have a little more free time. It's called We're All Gonna Die, and it's a fast-paced narrative survival horror comedy game, and it's a hoot.
I'm so psyched to finally play that. I'm just so bummed I didn't get to do it last weekend.
Time is on our side, right?
It certainly is. Now, speaking of which, I've been playing so many different game systems in the last several weeks. My head is kind of spinning. So I started out doing a weekly game for our friend Sean Dillon with the Phylactery from Planet X Games. I've been using that as the base and running it with 5th edition rules. So I have like a really nice mixture of OSR and, current game rules going into that. And I will tell you, dear listener, if you get the chance to check it out, you can get the PDF now from Planet X Games for the Phylactery. It's amazing. It's got a lot of great story leads in there. It's got a lot of great magic items. It's got a lot of cool little things that happen in there. It's a real grindhouse. So it's definitely something that you're going to, put the hit points of your players to the test with. So I've been enjoying that. And speaking of something that is grueling, I finally got to do Zweihander. I finally got to run a Zweihander game.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I haven't asked you about this before a podcast. I totally missed the game, and I was really pissed off about that. And you played. How was it?
It was amazing. I ran a pre-gen mod, and I highly recommend checking out and Drive Through RPG. If you're looking to dip your toe in a Zweihander, you can get free pre-gen characters. You can go on there and you can get a actual module for about $10, and they're all really good. So this game is as nasty, if not nastier, than Dan Fox described it as when he did the show last year. I mean, the mods are really simple to run. They remind me a lot of the old school TSR modules where, you'd have like the little box where it would kind of tell you the feel of the room and everything that was happening inside of it.
Yeah.
Instead, here it has like a list. It says what everything smells like, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you experience. So as a game master, and we're just going to flat call my a dungeon master because that's what I am. I'm a dungeon master. As a dungeon master, you have a good idea right off the bat that, your players are coming into the scene and you have the words in front of you that you need to kind of describe. You have the adjectives, you have the descriptors, and with that, it kind of gives you a nice lead to build the scenario and the scene for everybody.
Is it bullet points?
Some bullet points, yeah.
I kind of lamented this a little bit when I ran Scritch Scratch, which is, a pretty modern game. It was a free RPG released from Chaosium 2 years ago, and it has a lot of modern sensibility, but it's still written sort of like in prose. The one thing that kind of sucked about it is the fact that I have to go into it and really break out my own bullet points for it. And like, I kind of resent that work that I have to do. The fact that Zweihander module is in bullets is like, that's the way they should all be. It's so much easier. It's concise, tone notes, and let you kind of improv the rest.
Yeah, I mean, everything's right there for you. There is prose, and then there is those tone notes, and then there's some things where you're just like, as a game master, as a dungeon master, as a chill master, as a keeper of
Chill
secrets. It's hard to slow down as you're going through because you're trying to keep the story moving, but I was like, okay, I need to make sure I hit these notes, which really help my players embed themselves in the story even more. The combat is so friggin' deadly. Like, I want to use the other F word, but I'm gonna hold back. It is so deadly with a capital D. So we played one of my friends, Cheese Hasselberger. He is an amazing artist. He played with us. He's been dying to try Zweihander for a while. He's got all the books. Finally had the opportunity to do it, and he almost dies first combat, and he almost gets killed by like an insect, right? So the way combat works, it's a D100 system, which I really enjoying a lot more now because I've been playing more systems with the D100, and I think it really does simplify a lot of the rolling. Like, here's a number, roll under it, or whatever need be. I've been warming up to it even more than I did when I was playing Cthulhu. Finally kind of letting go of not always rolling a 20-sided die.
Yeah.
But I digress. So combat works like this. You have a base damage, and then you roll a 6-sided die and you add that on. If you roll a 6, the dice explodes and you roll it again. And if you roll another, it just keeps exploding. So it is very, very possible that in one combat, you could get killed. All said and done, I rolled 18, 19 points of damage from like this one little bite that, with his threshold, if I had rolled like 4 more damage points, he would have been outright dead. So there is not a ton of combat at all times. It's not like, say, the power fantasy that's Dungeons & Dragons where you're just walking around swinging sword and, whatever happens. You take a quick power nap and then suddenly you have your hit points and your spells back. Like, there is a serious consequence to combat in Zweihander, and boy howdy, did most of my players find out the hard way.
I feel like Zweihander is like the one role-playing game where I would like be okay with rules for infected wounds. It feels like it fits the setting and the theming of the game.
I think there is rules for infected wounds, and there's also like rules for like a certain kind of damage will do this. Like, you're going to lose an arm, you're going to lose a leg or whatever. I mean, it's crazy. We played for about 3 hours. We got to the point where combat was going to start, and pretty much the whole rest of the module is combat. However, it was like 11 something at night, and I was like, all right, let's wrap it up here. Now, granted, the way combat works, theoretically, they all could have been dead in 20 minutes. We could have just kept playing.
Yeah.
But we're going to play again at the end of the month, and we're going to finish the module, and hopefully they last longer than 20 minutes.
It could be a quick session.
It could be a quick session. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, well, then we'll play something else. It's fine, because I have them. But I was like, man, maybe we could just play to 11:30, because, I mean, they could die. So I did that, and then speaking of, like, D100 style systems, I played Chill last night, and you played with me.
I did. My first Chill experience.
We did the episode how many months ago? Last year?
Yeah. It was last October it ran. I don't remember when we recorded it.
Yeah, and so I'm finally getting around to playing it now, and it's not great. We played the Elvira mod and an Epidemic, was the first one shot in the thing, and I'm like, it's a little too on the nose. So we played a haunted house style scenario, which I had to jazz up and add some other things into because all said and done, nothing actually happens in this haunted house scenario. One of the things that I realize is that with horror games, especially when you're doing a horror game over the internet and you can't really see and experience the other players' reactions, I kind of lean towards the more, fighting style action, two-fisted kind of pulpy style horror movie than an atmospheric horror movie, because I kind of felt like it was would have been a little harder to pull off over Discord.
I have scared the crap out of a couple of my players in the Unwinnable Cthulhu game, but I think that that's more the fact that they're scaredy cats and less my narration ability as the keeper of secrets. I think that
Take the win.
I think that I just say like all the doors slam, and it's just like all the doors in every horror movie that they've ever seen slam in their mind. And they're like, oh my God. But I want to point out that in the episode that we covered Chill, I said that the Elvira module is actually my favorite set of Chill adventures. So that doesn't bode well for the rest of the original Chill line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very curious to check out more Chill books. I've been downloading stuff off of Drive Through RPG because why not? But I kind of knew what I was getting into bed with when I got into bed with the Chill set, and it's something I really wanted to run for our patrons. So, as I was reading it and even as we were playing it, I kind of saw what the people were kind of feeling and vibing on. So I just kind of leaned into that more, and I leaned into the action a little more. Now, that said, as far as like horror and storytelling goes, I finally got to run Kids on Bikes for some friends of ours as well, which I feel like is a system that is very much more geared towards horror and pulpy and sci-fi and spooky. It is a very spooky game, and it's very easy to lose yourself in the spookiness of the game. So, another thing, I downloaded off a Drive Through RPG. I got the core book and I got a couple modules for it. And all these games are really just, you read them, here's your character sheet, and you're off to the races. Yeah. And I really appreciate that about modern RPGs.
And that reminds me that I really want to drag out my Tales from the Loop stuff and put something together to do a one-shot with that, because I feel like that's a good pick up and play kind of game. Didn't we play something else? Oh, you played Casket Land, right?
I did play Casket Land. So the amazing Marie Enger, she is a brilliant artist, and she had this RPG called Casket Land. It's a small, like a zine RPG, and she just kickstarted the new version of it called Kuruk. And I bought it at PAX Unplugged in December, and I finally got to play it with my girlfriend and a few other players. And it's brutal. It is very much like spaghetti western in the wasteland.
Awesome.
And it's super easy to play too. It's easy to pick up. Your characters have very specific things that they can do. The artwork is amazing. And because the rules, in a lot of ways, are rules light, you can actually just really work on being the character, and not so much getting caught up in how am I going to do this? It's why am I doing this? And what brings me to this point? It's another deadly game. It's very easy to get yourself killed in this game. And if you check her out, there are quick start rules on casketland.com for you to pick up and plug and play. And I highly recommend the Casket Land experience.
Nice. I'm so jealous. You're beating me like 2-1 here. It's not fair.
Well, in fairness, though, you are still working.
So, interesting thing, this is my first real extended experience playing RPGs with people that I don't know and socialize with regularly. It's weird.
It is kind of weird.
I'm not used to it. It's not that I don't like people. I love people. But like the fun that we've had definitely butts up against this like weird thing with me where I'm just like, no, this is just something I do with my friends in my garage. Like, who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah. So it's definitely something interesting. Like, I've gotten used to playing with other people because I have been like a traveling dungeon master.
Yeah.
And I've been going to different places and playing with different people. And I've been doing that for years. And part of it was because I was traveling all the time. I had to. So this is a whole new world for me because I was always playing with people, in front of people. And I think I could probably count to 2 times that I've actually played online with people when I was away in a hotel room or something.
Yeah.
And now it's like, all right, I'm just going to download this PDF. I'm going to put out a call, say everyone who wants to play this game, who's available at this time, and we're going to go for it. And because of that, like my friend Eric, who's in Brazil, I've been actually able to play games with him. We've been trying to play games together for almost a decade, and we're finally playing games together. Our friend Shane up in Canada, who has been a patron of ours and now is a friend, like, I'm playing games with him as well. I'm inviting game creators that I know who, I've hung out with, and they're like, oh man, it would be really cool to like roll dice sometime. When are we ever going to do that? Well, folks, there's time enough for everything now. So I'm actually getting to play with all the people that I've ever wanted to roll dice with, and still get to bring my friends who I normally would be sitting around a game table with, drinking sodas and eating combos, having laughs, that I miss so fucking much. And we still get to play together. So it's kind of cool. Technology is fun.
It's interesting. Yeah, like when we finished the first Call of Cthulhu game with you, our friend Ed, who was playing at the end of the game, was just like, we're going to do this all the time now. After this is all over, like, it makes playing easier. Like, if somebody can't make it, we'll just play from home. It's fine. And we're all set up to do it now because we desperately needed to. And, like, that was the Band-Aid that got ripped off.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a cool new experience. I like the ease of it. The fact that, like, we could just kind of be like, well, we're all around. Like, let's just fire it up and get going.
Yeah, I mean, like, I miss playing board games. I miss hanging out at the clubhouse. I miss being with everybody. But, if it's got to be this or nothing, I choose this every day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Because we need this kind of connection to kind of keep us all sane during this crazy, crazy time.
Well, you guys do. I mean, I'm just doing my usual work thing, No, I'm going crazy too. Everybody's going crazy.
Yeah. And you know what? We're recording from afar right now and we honestly don't know when we are going to be able to sit in front of each other again and roll dice or record episodes. But one of the things I want you all to know is you can count on new episodes of the Vintage RPG podcast coming out every week, because we are still going to be making episodes. We're still going to be talking about games, maybe a little sounding different.
Yeah, they might not sound quite as crisp and wonderful, but that's okay.
Listen, man, I'm going to put a lot of work into it. It's just going to sound really good, but they might not sound as good as they used to. That being said, Stu and I are here, and we're all in the same boat together, and we're at least glad to be on a little part of your journey with you every week. So thank you so much for listening to our show. And, if you found us online, if you're our patrons or if you're a pal, we're glad to be rolling dice with you every week.
Yeah, and definitely, join our Discord. Like, I have no intention of stopping with just patrons. I'm going to run scratch for anybody who wants it. We're going to get through everybody.
So, folks, this was another episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can the people find you?
Locked in my house. Oh, wait, you mean on the internet?
Yeah.
You can find me. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm a little out of practice. You can find me on Instagram every day, posting things about, role-playing games. Sometimes toys, sometimes associated art and commentary, and it's fun and it's a good time, and you should follow it. Vintage RPG on Instagram.
You can find me on the Twitter at Handbreaker. I tweet about cute animals. I tweet about Dungeons and Dragons. I tweet about professional wrestling and now the games that I'm playing online with everybody. You could also find my day-to-day adventures in podcasting and in life over on Instagram at John Hambone McGuire. Although not much up there these days because we're all kind of stuck inside together. So definitely sign up for that, and there'll be more content later.
You can also check out house.
Yeah, it's just my house. Yeah, it's the area I'm currently occupying. You can check out my other podcast, My Die Happy Hour. It's pop culture for weirdos wherever podcasts are found. Folks, stay safe out there. May all your dice roll 20s, or at least in the high 17 area. And it's going to get better. And until it does, we're going to be right there with you. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dego West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.